When we picture life, we usually think of lush forests or calm oceans. But what if I told you that some of the toughest life on Earth is actually thriving in places where it should be completely impossible? Today, we're diving into the biochemical secrets of nature's ultimate survivors, these incredible organisms that have conquered the absolute extremes.
I want you to picture this. Searing hot volcanic vents, the bone-crushing pressure at the bottom of the sea, or even lakes so acidic they could dissolve metal. I mean, common sense says nothing should live in these places. And yet, they're absolutely teeming with life, these organisms called extremophiles. So the real question is, how on earth do they pull it off?
You see, these aren't just uncomfortable spots. They're fundamentally destructive to the very building blocks of life. Extreme heat just unravels proteins and DNA. Intense cold can literally shatter cells with ice. And all that acid and pressure, it breaks down the tiny machines that make a cell work. So to understand how anything survives this, we have to start with the absolute basics, the universal rules of energy.
Okay, so to survive, every single organism has to master the flow of energy. It's like a cosmic game with really strict rules, and those rules are dictated by the laws of thermodynamics. The absolute genius of life is in how it plays that game.
This analogy makes it super clear. Think about a sealed thermos. That's an isolated system. Eventually, the coffee inside just cools down to room temperature, and it hits this state of equilibrium. It's basically inert. But life, on the other hand, is an open system. It's constantly taking in energy, from food or sunlight, and pushing out waste, desperately fighting to stay away from that dead state of equilibrium.
And this right here gets to the core challenge. The second law of thermodynamics basically says the universe is always moving toward more disorder or entropy. Everything naturally wants to break down. But life does the exact opposite. It builds complex things, it creates order, and that is a constant, energy-hungry battle against chaos. So, how does life pay for this fight?
Well, it pays with a universal currency, a single molecule that powers almost every activity in every single known living cell, from the tiniest bacteria all the way up to blue whales. So let's meet the undisputed MVP of metabolism.
This is it, ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. The easiest way to think about it is as the rechargeable battery for the cell. It's a tiny, simple-looking molecule, but it stores this powerful little packet of energy that cells can spend immediately to get work done.
And here's how that rechargeable battery works. A fully charged ATP molecule has 3 of these phosphate groups. When the cell needs some juice, it just snaps off that third phosphate, which releases a burst of power. That turns ATP into the drained battery, which is called ADP. Then the cell uses the energy it gets from breaking down food to stick that phosphate right back on, recharging ATP back into a fresh new ATP.
A really great way to visualize this is to think of that chain of 3 phosphates as a compressed spring. You've got all these negative charges that are basically repelling each other, but they're packed in super tight. So when that final phosphate bond is broken, boing, the spring is released, and all that energy is unleashed to power the cell.
Now, get ready for this, because the sheer scale of this cycle is it's mind-boggling. A single working muscle cell can burn through and remake its entire supply of ATP every single minute. That works out to about 10 million molecules of ATP being regenerated every single second. It's this relentless, super high-speed energy economy happening inside you right now, powering everything from your thoughts to your movements.
So where does the energy to recharge all that ATP even come from? Well, it comes from what we call catabolic, or breakdown reactions. A perfect example is burning sugar for fuel during cellular respiration. This is an exergonic, or what you can think of as a downhill reaction. It releases a ton of energy, which the cell then cleverly captures to rebuild its ATP supply.
And of course, the opposite is true too. Building complex molecules, like what plants do during photosynthesis, is an endergonic, or uphill reaction. It needs a huge amount of energy put into it, which, as we know, plants get from sunlight. So life is this beautiful constant balancing act between these downhill reactions that release energy and the uphill ones that use it.
Okay, so we've got the energy currency ATP, but there's another massive problem we have to solve: speed. See, on their own, a lot of the cell's chemical reactions would be way too slow to actually sustain life. And that's where our next tool comes in, the master catalysts of biology.
So, say hello to the enzyme. Enzymes are these amazing proteins that work as biological catalysts.
Their whole job is to grab onto specific molecules and help them react, speeding up the process by millions, sometimes even billions of times. They are, quite literally, the microscopic workforce of the cell.
And here's the key to how they work. It's all about something called activation energy. Think of it like a big hill that molecules have to climb before they're able to react. Without an enzyme, that hill can be enormous, but what enzymes do is basically create a tunnel through the hill. They dramatically lower the energy needed and allow these reactions to happen incredibly fast, even at normal body temperatures.
So now we've got our complete biochemical toolkit, right? We have a constant flow of energy, we have ATP as the universal currency, and we have enzymes to control the speed. So now let's go back to our original mystery and see how these extremophiles use these very same tools to absolutely master their brutal environments.
So here's the secret. It's not that extremophiles play by a different set of rules. They've just evolved these super-powered versions of the same tools we all use. Take their enzymes, for example. They're called extremozymes, and they are built to be so incredibly tough that they can function perfectly in conditions that would instantly destroy our own.
And these superpowers are just incredible. For example, the bacterium Thermus aquaticus, which lives in hot springs, gave us a heat-stable enzyme that completely revolutionized modern DNA testing and made things like PCR possible. You've got some algae that produce their own antifreeze proteins to survive the cold. And then there are bacteria like Deinococcus radiodurans that have DNA repair proteins so efficient they can survive radiation doses that would be instantly lethal to you and me. Each one has its own specialized toolkit for its unique challenge.
And you know, it actually goes way beyond just enzymes. Extremophiles have evolved this whole suite of specialized proteins. Some of them act like a molecular scaffold to keep their cells from being crushed by insane pressures. Others protect their DNA from getting totally shredded by radiation. It's a complete, system-wide adaptation to survive.
And look, this isn't just some weird science trivia. Studying these survivors is actually unlocking huge breakthroughs for all of us. Their powerful enzymes are driving brand new industrial processes. They're even being used to help clean up toxic waste. And in the field of astrobiology, they are completely redefining where we might look for life beyond our own planet.
So what this all proves is that life isn't fragile, not at all. It's a stunningly creative chemical system that is constantly adapting and innovating just to survive. These extremophiles show us that life can conquer places we once thought were just sterile wastelands. And that leaves us with one final, pretty profound question. If life can thrive in the impossible places right here on Earth, where else in the universe might it be hiding?